Hi, I'm Tiger Lily, and this is the first of a number of YouTubes that I intend to launch out to the cyber world regarding helmet laws. Now, I started riding my motorcycle about 10 years ago. I'm 51 years old, it's 2012, and I really enjoyed motorcycle riding, and I never even gave the helmet a second thought. I never thought about it. The first time I thought about helmets was I took my first long trip was from Las Vegas to Texas, and we stopped in Arizona. We spent the night, and when I woke up in Arizona after spending a night at a Motel 6 there with my husband or something, I had this excruciating pain, like I thought I was having a heart attack or something, and it was from wearing a 3/4 size helmet. And when I was riding through Arizona, I noticed that some riders were not wearing helmets. So that got me to think, and I said to my husband, you know what, I don't think I want to wear a helmet. And he says, you got to wear a helmet. So I wore the helmet, and but it was always in the back of my mind that, when will I ever become experienced enough to not have to wear a helmet? So that began a quest for information in my mind. I thought, I wonder what it would even feel like to ride a motorcycle without a helmet. Just recently, my husband rode his motorcycle because we learned about the same time, and he's been riding about 10 years as well. And he took a ride over to Pine Valley, Utah, and he didn't wear a helmet. And that was his first time taking a long trip, a somewhat long trip without a helmet. And he says, it really feels great. You feel really free. So, he got it, that it is a sense of freedom. And what I tell all my friends is I don't ride to be safe, I ride to be free. I mean, if I wanted to be safe, for crying out loud, I'd drive a car or take an airplane and submit myself to all those TSA investigations and everything. But this series of YouTubes is going to be all about exposing the tyranny involved with helmet laws, and it applies to every law. Basically, just about every law on the books is about dominating and controlling us. There really are two universal principles that we should all follow, and I'm a big fan of and follower of and studier of the works of Stefan Molyneux. He's a Canadian philosopher, and he's the biggest name on the internet as far as philosophy. And his message rings the truest for me. And his message basically says that there are two basic principles that we as a human species should abide by. And that is never initiate aggression against another human being and respect for property rights. So he likes to say that everything he needed to know to be a good human being he learned in kindergarten. Don't push, don't shove, don't initiate aggression, don't lie, don't steal, all of that. So with that, I wanted to answer a couple of questions and this on my first video that I'm doing here, and then begin to expose all of the stuff that I have uncovered. Now, a lot of the stuff I'm going to be airing very strategically timed, because Nevada is going to have a legislative session next year in 2013. Last year in 2011, there was a helmet repeal bill, a bill offering a helmet choice for motorcyclists, and it got the furthest ever. It actually got through the Senate Transportation Committee, but not without a whole lot of drama. But what I learned was so insightful and eye-opening that I think that it helped prepare me for the message that I would later learn through the philosophy of as instructed by Stefan Molyneux. So let me just back up a little bit and ask you, because I've had people ask me, why don't you just wear a helmet? Well, that's like asking somebody, why don't you just stop eating cheesecake? You can live without eating cheesecake, but you love cheesecake. So if the doctor tells you to stop eating cheesecake, that's still a choice for you. But when the laws are such that you will no longer be able to eat cheesecake because you're, with the Obamacare, and now if somebody finds out that you eat cheesecake, there's a gun pointed at your head. Before, it's just a doctor telling you, don't eat cheesecake, and if you do, you're going to die soon. But there wasn't a gun pointed at your head. So that's what most laws are, guns pointed at us. And for those friends of mine who are constitutionalists, I would argue that most laws are not even constitutional. For a law to be constitutional, there has to have been harm. So think about the speeding tickets, the parking tickets, the jaywalking tickets, the DUI tests. Think of all of those things where no harm was caused, and yet the government comes at you. So, anywho, I wanted to compare, the helmet law and how I feel about the restriction and the mandated, the helmet bondage. I feel like I'm in helmet bondage when I have to wear a helmet. I'd like to compare it to, what is it that you like? I talked about the cheesecake. What about if you like to de-stress with a nice hot bath? Well, let's say a kid or two got cooked in a bathtub because the water was too hot. Common sense would dictate that people shouldn't have their hot water heaters so high if you have children that are taking their own baths. But all of a sudden, some so-called good intentioned legislator is going to say, no, your bath water cannot be, your heater cannot be X hot. So all of a sudden, your kid gets cooked, and not only are you feeling guilty and in distress because your kid is hurt over this hot water, but now you've got to heal your guilt and your wound in a cage because you just violated a law. You see where I'm going with this? What about a glass of wine? What if what you like is a glass of wine? Well, as you'll recall, we had prohibition where nobody was allowed to drink wine or alcohol. How did that work out? The same with the war on drugs. Marijuana is the one that just gets me. And I was a big Ron Paul fan when he was running and everything because I like that he took the message nationally, but he just got so trivialized and mocked by lamestream media. But he said, yeah, he would legalize everything. Well, I'd go a step further. I say decriminalize everything. Marijuana is the one that really, really upsets me. I know a lot of people who could really benefit from taking a few, by smoking marijuana, especially medical marijuana. You've got like rheumatoid arthritis people, you've got people with all kinds of MS and, conditions, and even sleep disorders. That's supposed to help a lot of things. And yet, it's the fundamental Christian right that says they say that God says not to pollute your body, and they decided God doesn't want us to smoke marijuana, so they decided they're going to elect people who are going to force you not to smoke dope. No, for whatever reason. That's criminal in my mind. That's immoral for a so-called Christian, somebody who supposedly is supposed to love thy neighbor, to withdraw something from somebody when they need it, to make people jump through so many hoops just to get some relief, to keep them from getting agriculture that their God put on this earth, and to say, no, you can't use that because I said, that my God said, that yada, yada, yada. That's just ridiculous. So we were talking about the cheesecake a little bit ago. Well, you know, the mayor of New York City banned salt. So he banned salt from the tables, like the salt shaker, because of heart disease from restaurants. So, you know, this police state and this nannycratism is going to be the death of our country. It probably already is, and we're just kind of like in the matrix here, not knowing it yet. So what if what you like to do is, you know, to de-stress, you like to go for a jog around the neighborhood. But, you know, last year somebody had an accident and hit their head, and now they're a drooling quadriplegic. So now every jogger has to wear a helmet, you know. So it's not that unrealistic to think that it's not going to affect you. And everybody says, no, well, you know, as long as it doesn't affect me, or what's the harm in putting on a helmet? Ask the Jews in Germany, what was the harm in them identifying themselves with the Star of David? How'd that work out for them? So critical thinking, that is what's really important. And I made a couple of notes for myself. My son-in-law asked my daughter, he said, why doesn't your mom just wear a helmet? And she says, oh, just, you know, just go with it. she's just radical that way. Well, yeah, I guess I am, because that's my pressure point. You know, it's like, what will it take to get you to wake up? Fortunately for me, it took a day in June 2010 for me to be pulled over and thoroughly violated by a female NHP, Nevada Highway Patrol officer, who was so brutal to me. That was my wake-up call. Prior to that date, whenever I saw somebody in handcuffs, you know, like at a traffic stop, I thought to myself, those are the heroic men and women that, you know, are putting their lives on the line for us, and yay, they got another criminal off the streets. But after that experience in June of 2010, now I see people in handcuffs as the victims. And I see the cops as the gangbangers in blue or in brown or whatever costume color they choose. So, let's see. So my son-in-law, to my son-in-law, I would say, that's my pressure point. What would it take for you to get pissed off? Fortunately for me, it was just a silly helmet law. But I've been interviewing, I have interviewed people who, Teresa Smith comes to mind. She's a very vocal mother of a murdered victim of Anaheim cops. The Anaheim cops murdered her son, Cesar, and they got away with it. So she was awakened by her son's murder. I'm lucky that I was awakened because some bitch violated me. At least I didn't get hurt. At least no loved one got murdered. But it's happening all across America, and mainstream media doesn't pick up on it. Yeah, you hear, you know, the various things that happen locally. Your local ABC, your local CBS, they'll cover something that a cop shot somebody or whatever. It doesn't make mainstream media. Why is that? But there's no excuse for people in this day and age, with the internet that we have and the availability of the resources through internet that we have, not to become informed. Wake up and smell the coffee. My brother said, you know, he lives in Texas, and it's because of him that I'm even a motorcycle rider. He said, Texas is a helmet choice state, and he says, if one day Texas said you have to wear a helmet, you know, I wouldn't like it, but I'd just wear one. And I got him to think. He's a waiter. He's been a waiter for 20 years. And his his restaurant where he works is about half a mile from his house, and it gets pretty freaking hot in Texas. And I said, well, now if you wanted to get on your motorcycle, hop on your motorcycle, go to work, no big deal. But with the law, if you don't put that helmet on and mess up your hair, don't be surprised if you get pulled over by one of these gangbangers in blue in Texas, which is a big police state. Don't be surprised if you get pulled over, and not only will they pull you over because you don't have a helmet, they might pull you over because they don't like your helmet, or because they don't see a sticker that says Department of Transportation on it. And they'll use the helmet as an excuse to check your driver's license, registration, proof of insurance. Oh, what you got there in your pockets. Exercise your fourth and your fifth, people. I learned the hard way. So I posted some of my excursions that I was going to do with YouTube on the Open Carry New Mexico Facebook page. And this one person by the name of Jesse D, I won't say the last name, he said, why would you feel safer without a helmet? Well, Jesse, let me tell you. First of all, in order to wear a helmet that a cop would not want to pull you over because of the helmet, it has to be gigantic. And when you wear a gigantic helmet and you're on a motorcycle, I know my neck is not as, my husband's got a gigantic watermelon head. He can handle the helmets, but I don't. And when I'm going fast, and I like to go fast, I feel like it's a propeller. The wind gets under me. One time I had a visor over a full-face helmet that malfunctioned, and it started flapping, and it scared the crap out of me. So the other thing is it can obstruct your vision. It can obstruct your hearing. I feel a lot safer and in much more control of my motorcycle without a helmet than when I have to fuss with a helmet. So that's how I feel that's why I feel safer without a helmet. Now, let me one of the analogies that I like to give about helmets is that back in the day, we used to think that the world was flat. And Christopher Columbus decided to sail around the world. But people kept saying, if you keep going far enough, you're going to fall off. You're going to fall off, because that was their superstition. They couldn't conceptualize in their minds how the world could be round and how you could go around it. So even when Christopher Columbus brought back proof, he brought back some natives, some Aborigines Americans. He brought them back for them to see. He brought gold. He brought proof. Even then, there were skeptics saying, well, he just didn't sail far enough, because surely the world would have been flat. And they didn't believe him that he really sailed all the way around or whatever. So, with that mentality, when I went to my motorcycle training course, I've never ridden a motorcycle, and I went to my training course and I passed. It was a 3-day course at a Harley-Davidson shop. And it occurred to me that a lot of people say that a helmet saved their life. Even my son, he says, oh, it's a good thing I was wearing my helmet, because my head was just scraping through the boulders, and he was lifelined, and he's had so many accidents. But, so there's a few people alive today who will claim that a helmet saved their life. Now, how many people who were wearing a helmet and died, if they could speak, if the dead could speak, how many of them would tell you, the helmet caused me to crash and die? I was unable to see something. My reflexes weren't fast enough. I felt like a propeller, and the wind got under my helmet, and I lost control of my bike. How many of them could tell you that a helmet killed them. Zero, because they're dead, right? So it's that's where I'm going with that. There's always another side, and it's about critical thinking. The other argument that I like to give people is, I saw a study that when seatbelt laws were enacted, there was a surge of accidents, and the psychologists or whomever did the study attributed that to the fact that people had a false sense of security and were therefore taking more risks. It's the same with helmets. A lot of these boys with their tattoos and their badassness, they think that they can wear a full-face helmet that costs them $800 and that's going to save their lives. Well, let me tell you something. Ain't nothing going to save you when that 18-wheeler runs over you and squashes you like a bug. So, anyways, this is, oh, and as far as the New Mexico open carry Facebook, there's a couple of people there who really hate me because I challenge their belief system. And instead of arguing with me rationally, they just lash out and throw insults. And I got to admit, you know, I've gotten in the gutter with them, but they always throw, I must say, they always throw the first shot. And so one guy, I'll just say his first name, his name is Roger. He said to me, no need, quote, no need to protect brain dead. So he's talking about me being a brain dead person. Joseph is another person who can't stand me, and he says, nothing to lose. So that's about what I wanted to say for this intro into the multi-series of YouTubes that I'm getting ready to launch. And hopefully I'll get better at this and more pithier and to the point. But I have gotten 6 or 7 helmet tickets, and I intend to expose every one of those. I've been detained a couple of times and not given a helmet ticket. And so I want to expose the cops, the legislators, oh my gosh, the bureaucrats, the nanny-crats, the Kool-Aid drinkers like Joseph and Roger, the Kool-Aid drinkers, the superstitious. So I'm going to close with that and just tell you that the next time I do a video on this theme, it's going to be about Senator Schneider. He was a Nevada senator, Nevada state senator, who had some horrific things to say about SB 177, which was Nevada's helmet choice bill for 2011. So let me just close on that teaser. Let me tell you, I sent him a letter. I'm going to read that letter that I sent to him. I sent it to a lot of my activist friends, motorcycle rights activist friends. And let's just say they were awestruck. So with that, let me close off and remind everybody that I don't ride to be safe. I ride to be free. So repeal it or feel it, bitches.